So I do have a few notes in my hand that I will use. And you know why I have them? To give you hope that there will be an end to the homily. That's why I have them, to give you hope. So this is my 10th First Holy Communion class here at St. Greg's, 10 years already. And you probably have heard almost everything I have to say. How many of you think you've heard everything I have to say? I knew I could count on Mr. Glamuzina to raise his hand. And so the one thing I don't know if I ever told you, does anybody know what my grandfathers did for a living? Both of my grandfathers had the same profession. I don't think I ever told any of you what my grandfathers did. Anybody know? Do you really know? Or are you going to take a guess? You can take a guess. They were not doctors. Actually, I lived next door to two doctors, but no. No, both of my grandfathers were tailors. They were both tailors. If you had clothes in Black Rock or North Buffalo and they did not come from us, shame on you, because they made custom-made suits. Both of them were professional tailors. And so clothes were very important in our family. How many of you think clothes were important to us? Very important to us. Now, I ask our First Holy Communion class to stand up if you are ever concerned about clothes or what you're wearing. Stand up if you are ever concerned about clothes or what kind of thing. I need to see who the fashion bugs are here, okay? Who's concerned about their clothes, right? And I'm going to guess you're concerned about your hair, too. I'm very concerned about my lack of hair. So, okay, have a seat, have a seat, have a seat. So, since you're concerned about your clothes, how many of you think the kind of clothes you're wearing shows what you're about to do or what you're doing? That the kind of clothes you're wearing has some pointing towards what you're going to be doing. How many of you think the kind of clothes you wear have a thought? How many? Stand up if you think so for our kids. Anybody think the kind of clothes that you're wearing, right, might indicate what you're doing? And you can have a seat. And how many of you think the kind of clothes you're wearing expresses something about who you are? How many of you think stand up if the kind of clothes you're wearing expresses who you are? Right? Often our clothes express exactly who we are. They do that. And how many of you, have a seat, how many of you care about the name of the clothes that you're wearing, like Tommy Bahama or, Vineyard Vines? How many of you care about the kind of clothes you wear, the name brand? Anybody compare? Now we got the real fashion people going. All right, excellent, excellent. Well, I do think the kind of clothes we wear expresses us, tells something about who we are, and certainly the kind of clothes that we are wearing at a particular moment will definitely point to what we're doing. All of you are wearing beautiful dresses and suits for your First Communion today. Points to something that you're doing today. And over here, I have emptied out part of my closet to bring. For example, if you saw, because names are important, the 25th anniversary issue of the St. Gregory the Great race shirt, and these shorts, along with these sneakers, what might I be doing? Who wants to tell me if you saw me wearing this, what do you think I might be doing? I might be running, right? And who knows what sport I really like to play? I wear this stuff all of the time. Okay, don't let me down. What is it? Squash I will accept. It's really racquetball. Twice, 2-3 times a week. And the fun part of playing racquetball is all of my opponents are younger and they've yet to beat me, which is really great, especially two 25-year-olds. They can't seem to get it. So I wear this all of the time as I play racquetball. Now, if I showed up maybe in these shorts and these flip-flops, what might I be doing? Who wants to take a guess? What might I be doing if you saw me wearing this? Swimming, right? What else do you think I might be doing? Down a water slide for sure, and walking on the sand, which I was doing all last week in Florida. I still have sand on the bottom, no matter how much I wash, I can't get rid of it. What else? There's something I do every Monday night during summer. I play water volleyball. So, not the flip-flops, but the shorts definitely need them for water volleyball. Now, next, if you might, because names are important to some, if you saw me wearing this Tommy Bahama shirt, what might I be doing? What do you think this might mean? What might it mean? How many of you think I might be watching the Bills game? I might be watching the Bills game, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, the beauty of this one is it's reversible, so it's like you have two different sweaters. Nobody even knows. Now, who knows what today is? Not only is it the anniversary of my first Holy Communion, it is your first Holy Communion. Who knows what else is important today? Some important event in our country is happening today. Yes, the big kids are now answering. The Kentucky Derby is taking place today. And I am invited to a Kentucky Derby party. And I went to Vineyard Vines and I bought the official Kentucky Derby pants. These are how many of you want to see me wear these? I think it'd be kind of cool in my black suit with the official Vineyard Vines Kentucky Derby pants. I don't know if I have enough courage to wear them later today, but I'm certainly going to try. The Kentucky Derby pants. Now, and I did not know that this individual was going to be at Mass. But right here, right now. A few years ago, I celebrated my 25th anniversary of being a priest. And Mr. and Mrs. Setlick, right here, they bought me a new suit because they said, your parents are no longer here and they would want you to have a new suit. And they said, you got to have a new suit for your anniversary, the new suit. I didn't even know they were going to be here. And back in 1973, I wore this suit for my first Holy Communion. How many of you have ever heard me say, I don't throw anything out? This is the actual suit I wore on my first Holy Communion, along with the official, boutonniere, and, to show in the original box that says, Communion Altar, come to the estate sale, and Riverside Men's Shop. And also, I did not know that these people would be here at this Mass, but my shoes from the bootery that I wore on my first Holy Communion. So now all of you guys are like the boys today wear the brown shoes with the dark, we wore black. Save your suits. You never know when you're going to need them. I don't think my sainted mother thought the suit would ever see the light of day again, but it did, along with the tie and shirt that I wore. Clothes are very important, and the kind of clothes that we wear are important, and I can prove that I wore that suit. If you look at the screen, I will now prove who is that dashing young man up there. There I am. And, that day, I put on that suit, just like all of you making First Holy Communion put on your beautiful dress or your beautiful suit. You got dressed this morning, right? And spiritually, you're also getting dressed today. But you were first put on something spiritual when? When was the first time you put something spiritual on? When my fellow bow tie wearer, because I always wore bow ties back in the day. Baptism, perfect answer, A+, huh? So if you read the Bible, the scripture tells us to do what? We put on Christ. So just like we put on clothes and we wear clothes, we put on Christ. And the very first time you put on Christ was at the time of your baptism. You put on Christ. And today, just like you got dressed in beautiful dresses and beautiful suits, why did you do that? Because in a greater way, today you're putting on Christ. You're going to grow closer to Him as you receive Jesus in the Eucharist. And you know, there are great examples of people who teach us how to put on Christ. And some of those great examples are right in the benches with you, your parents, grandparents, your family, to teach you how to be putting on Christ. But through the whole world, there are some people we know that teach us how to put on Christ. What do we call those people? Who knows? What do we call those people that people know throughout the whole world? There's over 10,000 of them that we know about by name. Who knows what we call these people? What do we call these people? Saints, perfect answer. I'm telling you, we're 100% today. We call them saints, right? And saints are those people who, throughout their whole life, put on Christ. And we remember them, some of them for a couple thousand years already. We remember them because they were so holy. And who is my new favorite up-and-coming saint? I talk about them all the time. Who is my favorite up-and-coming saint? Who? Carlo Acutis. How many of you have ever heard me talk about Carlo Acutis, huh? I love Carlo Acutis. And there is Carlo Acutis. Carlo Acutis died in 2006, so not that long ago, at the age of 15. And he was beatified a couple years ago, and he's on his way to becoming a saint. And why? Well, Carlo Acutis, among many things, had a great love for the Eucharist. Well, you're about to receive today, he had a great love for. And every day, from the day he made his first Holy Communion, every day he went to Mass. He would go to Mass on his own. He would walk. He lived in Milan, Italy, and he would walk to church, and he always went to Mass. And not only did he go to Mass and reading what his pastor wrote about him, he would come very early and sit right in front of the tabernacle and pray, and after Mass was over, he would sit there and pray. He loved the Eucharist so much that he used his gift of talent of computers, and he developed the first website dedicated to teach all of us that exist today about all of the Eucharistic miracles that took place in the history of the world. And he had many great quotes about the Eucharist. Now you know why I really need these, because I got to get them in the same order you're going to see them. And I didn't trust my memory. These are a few things that blessed Carlo Acutis has taught us. Number one, the Eucharist is the highway to heaven. It's one of his sentences he used all the time. The Eucharist is the highway to heaven. How many of you have ever gone on a trip and took food in the car with you? I always take food in the car with me, huh? Because when we're on a trip, we get hungry. And when you're alone in the car, I not only get hungry, I want to stay awake. So I keep eating things. And just like we eat things when we're on a trip here, the Eucharist is the food that we need on our trip, our highway to the kingdom of heaven. Second thing he said, the more Eucharist we receive, the more we will become like Jesus. So that on earth we have a foretaste of heaven. The more Eucharist we receive, the more we will be like Jesus, so that we have the foretaste of heaven. Every time we come to Mass, we learn a little bit more about what it means to be in God's heavenly kingdom. That's why Mass is so important. And he also said, by standing before the Eucharistic Christ, we become holy. So as we stand before the Eucharistic Christ, we become holy. And he also said, when we face the sun, we get a tan. This is about as tan as I get. I'm Polish. I have two looks, pale and burned. And when I am on the beach, I use sunscreen 5 billion, to make sure I don't get burned. But so he said, when we face the sun, we get a tan. And when we stand before Jesus in the Eucharist, we become saints. Now, somehow we've gotten a little backed up on our signs up here, so those quotes aren't up there. But important to think about that. The more we stand before Jesus in the Eucharist, the more we become saints. And so today, as you celebrate your first Holy Communion, I want you to think you're taking a big step in becoming more like a saint. How many of you want to be a saint someday? Who wants to be a saint? We should all want to be saints, huh? Anybody in heaven is a saint. And we know 10,000 of them by name throughout the whole world over the course of history, but anybody who's in heaven is a saint. We should all want to be a saint. And so, what is a saint? A few thoughts about what a saint is, and hopefully we're going to shift. There it is. Who is a saint? A saint is someone who fears sin and runs away from it. So as we think about our call to be a saint, we want to also make sure we run away from sin. One thing I didn't tell you, one of my grandfathers invented a dry cleaning process. I still have the patent on it. Unfortunately, it no longer pays us anything. But why do we need dry cleaners? Probably some of you by the end of the party today will need a dry cleaner. Why? Our clothes get dirty once in a while, don't they? And we got to wash them or take them to a dry cleaner. And so we got to be very careful when we sin to always go to the dry cleaner called what? How do we dry clean our sins away? Anybody know? You did this about a year ago. You did this a year ago. What is it? Reconciliation. We are 100% today. So beautiful job. And so a saint is someone who fears sin and runs away from it. Secondly, a saint is someone who's dedicated to prayer. Prayer is necessary food for the soul, just like we take that food in the car on a trip. Prayer is spiritual food that we need for sainthood. A saint, thirdly, is someone who loves Jesus and is not afraid to say they love Jesus. And sometimes we're afraid to say that today. A saint is someone who loves Jesus. A saint is also somebody who's humble. Who's humble. What does it mean to be humble? It means that whenever we get a compliment, we can always turn and say, we thank God because God gave me the talent, the ability, the desire to do that. That person always points right back to God. That person's humble. And a saint is someone whose life shows the fruit of love. One of the great things about blessed Carlo Acutis is that he used his talent and computers to create that website, logging all of the Eucharistic miracles of the world. He is known that anytime any of his friends had a problem, he was always the first one there, and many of his friends came and stayed with him at his house when there was problems in their own home. And an awesome thing about Carlo Acutis is that he took care of the poor. And he would get his friends as teenagers, and they would go into the inner city of Milan, and they would work in soup kitchens. And very often, Carlo did not eat his own dinner. He would box up the food, and he would take it and give it to somebody on the street who had nothing to eat. He showed that love of God. So today, as we celebrate your first communion, I simply want you to be concerned about what you're wearing. Not your clothes, but that you wear Jesus always. Be concerned that you show what you're wearing to others, and be concerned to express yourself as that one who loves Jesus. And the name matters on the clothes, So allow others to know you're a disciple of Jesus Christ.